If you're not just a basic bot or somebody who lacks awareness, maybe you can help explain to me what's wrong with this situation.
Young 10-year-old, very intelligent-looking young lady, a black young lady at a Pearland school who will not stand for the Pledge of Allegiance in her classroom. She doesn't want to stand up because apparently she believes that black Americans need a lot more to be done in this country. She is not willing to support the black Americans that have fought and died for this country. You know what I believe?
Go do some research after World War I, II, and Vietnam. They didn't respect us either, so that's funny right there.
Cornell, and I know you supported her.
They were hanging people in their uniforms after being shot at to protect people wearing those uniforms.
Publicly. But you know what I think? I think at 10 years old, she has no real understanding of what America is. So I wonder if her...
Well, duh, that's why we can't smoke cigarettes, own guns, have sex, or do any of those other things at 10 years old, stupid fuck.
Parents have sat her down and explained what Americans have given their lives. White, black, red. It doesn't make any difference. They stood...
Black and red. Whew, this guy is wildly misinformed. America lost its life helping the black and red?
And they fought and they died for this country, and she doesn't want to do anything to honor them? That she could.
Also, on a side note, if this man can say that Native Americans are red, then that means Asians and Arabs are red. And I was correct when I said that that was Esau, the red man. And through metaphorical teachings, they taught the Europeans, right? The Spaniards and the Italians, and the people that came up through Morocco, right? The Arabs and the Moors. And then not only that, they're red because of the skin color, because of the hemoglobin. So scientifically, I was correct.
From a family of military service members. Her father's is a retired military service member also who served this nation well with great dignity. She also has additional family members who was in the armed forces. Good. Her mother's a very intelligent woman who has had long conversations as well as her father about her not standing for the flag. What white people need to understand... Just white people? Yes, please. Let me explain. What white people need to understand is that that national anthem was written by Francis Scott Key, a slave owner. Oh, here we go. Who demonized and hated black slaves and black people. And that unwritten third, that unheard of and unspoken third verse, go research the third verse where he says there's no refuge in this country for the hireling or the slave. Both should be turmoil to the grave. How's her parents doing? This is a man.
Both should be turmoil to the grave. How's her parents doing? What?
Successful. That promised turmoil for black people to the grave. Would you ask Jewish parents to dance to a German anthem that disrespects Jewish people? No, you would not. Germany, no, you would not. That disrespects Jewish people.
If we lived in, so if he lived in Germany, he'd be a Nazi. He will do whatever his land tells him to do.
Why? You certainly can kneel down. In America, you have the right to do that. Well,
you should see the direction Germany went in after World War II and Japan, and then go research the direction Ukraine went in. They hate the Chinese, right? Look, I'm going to give you a story about Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee was more than likely either murdered by the Chinese or racist Americans. What happened was they wanted all the Chinese out of Chinatown and wanted them destroyed in every state. Didn't acknowledge them for building the railroads. Then Bruce Lee, just like me, after all the bullshit, we should teach the Westerners and being nice to people who were assimilated. Then the Chinese wanted him dead because he was teaching them, right? So that's just some of the racists. But in actual history, they were talking about, oh, we don't want kung fu, we want karate. But karate was Japan was their literal enemy. We don't like the Russians, we want to help Ukraine. But the Russians were their ally and Ukraine was their enemy. I can't make this shit up.
What will happen to her? How her friends will respond? How the school will view her? How Americans will view her is very negative. And this is not what you want.
So in America, if you don't suffer from Stockholm Syndrome and identify with your slave master colonial masters, you will be seen negatively. Well, thanks, guy. I gotta give a fuck. Hello, everybody. I hope you're having a beautiful day, fellow humans. I don't give a fuck what country or creed you're from. So I just wanted to say something on this camera real quick because I feel like while many are waking up, thank you, Adon, for the extra little push. I feel like people are still acting like we are in the same predicament we were before. And I'm going to let this video play before this even plays, so you guys probably have seen it. But me and my friends sometimes talk about this thing called cognitive dissonance and what a lot of people of a certain faction go through. And as explained, with the flag and the national anthem and the Pledge of Allegiance and all that, I just want to make something clear. When I was in high school, I believe it was my sophomore history teacher, I think it was. Um, she had took a flag and threw it down and stomped on it. And I guess a bunch of students went home and told their parents, and then like she started getting death threats. It ended up being on the news eventually, but this is what I have to say about that. I renounce this fucking flag. I renounce the Pledge of Allegiance. I renounce the national anthem and this entire fucking country. Every time somebody asks somebody, do they condemn Hamas or Netanyahu in Israel or any other faction, the first thing I say in my mind is, I renounced this motherfucker a long time ago. Let me tell you all something. To look at African Americans, whatever you want to call us, to look at these humans that are brown and different colors other than the pale, and think that we have any allegiance or giving of a fuck about this place outside of our own well-being, I need to explain to you that you are suffering very badly in the mind if you think that we deserve to help you all. There are white people in their grave and story forgotten for trying to help us. That's what the movie Mississippi Burning was about. The Underground Railroad shocked my mind when I found out it was a network of Caucasians leaving their lights on and letting Africans stay with them. But all they ever talk about is Anne Frank. So this entire system, this entire whatever this is, when you guys be like, baby, are you American? Do you want to be an American? We're given this image. See, what they do is, I think the idea is to destroy these other countries and make them look like shitholes. So then when people talk, they're like, oh, but look at their countries. America. This place is a fuckhole. This place ain't no different than those other places outside that they create an image that it's beautiful. Are you understanding what I'm telling y'all? Go watch Cold Case Files and Cops for hours and hours and days and months and years, all the forms of them. And understand what I'm telling y'all. 1,500 Caucasian murders a year. These people, there will probably be 1,500 murders in the news within 6 months. Just in mass shootings alone. Y'all, enough. I get sick of all forms of the bullshit anymore. Whenever I hear somebody say, but black people, that is the most blanketed dumb shit. What? You're labeling a whole planet of people based on one incident, based on 100 incidences, billions of people. Everybody does it. This video blew my mind. The dude, and then when the African American pundit started explaining why he doesn't want to be considered an heirling and a slave that will be tormented into the grave, the man across from him says, how are your parents? Are they successful? Were they good people? Dude, are you a robot? Are you programmed to say that? How is that a response to what this other man is saying? That's why, honestly, you see me on this camera getting fiery, but in real life, I don't give a fuck. I make a lot of money. And my mom would be like, my mom texted me, she was like, son, you should have money saved up. And I'm explaining something to you. Recently, I lost all my overtime. That's about $250 a check. I get paid twice a month, so that's about $500 a check I lost. Plus, if I were to get, that's just my average extra 8 hours. If I was working like 10, 12, 13 overtime hours, that's like, you're looking at $300, $400 per check, right? So then after that, I don't know if you all heard, but there's a lot of other shit going on, but they just shut the government down. So nobody's getting Link. I don't know if you know what Link is, SNAP. That's food. I don't care if you're right, left, up, down. Everybody in every race was getting food stamps. Predominantly the race of people that are acting a nut right now and have been for a really long time. So all this food just gone. You know what month this is happening in? November. You know why November is relevant? It's the food month. Whenever you guys say food stamps, contracts, blah, 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 Section 8 people, let me tell you what just happened. Billions of dollars going to the corporate food peoples, going to the landlords, going to all these contracted businesses who can't afford it now because of tariffs are now not getting money. See, whenever, like, this is why humans are funny to me. Whenever humans are given aid in a capitalism, they go then spend the aid. When that happens, normal consumerism happens and billions of dollars. You guys see what's happening with Target? Why would Target be losing money because of the blacks? That's real interesting to me, right? Dun, dun, dun. So he cut off all the food stamps and all this other shit that just happened. Tariffs. He's not giving money to farmers and all these other people. Even if he is, China said they're not buying your shit. After years of China, Russia, China. What the fuck? Now he gave $40 billion to Argentina. What? So now let me explain to you. I don't want you guys to conspiracy theorists. I'm going to tell you in real time what he's doing. Okay, he hates China. All this money is being spent to China to make Bibles. Then all these schools and government entities are buying Bibles and 10 Commandments and shit. So boom, you're looking at 6 million, 60 million in Ohio alone, right? One state. Then, so let me explain now what this happened with Argentina. Now these Argentinians are getting all this shit done and they're contracted to buy a bunch of shit at random spots. What's the shit and who are the products they're buying from? So then random members of Trump's family and peoples are getting rich from these third world countries being given this tax money from us. It's called money laundering. You ever walk through the streets of Americano and see all these businesses that are just open for years and years and years? And they have like one customer, two customers. Or these downtown areas that have all these fancy shops in these older cities and towns. And they're just open for years, and they don't generate hardly any fucking money. But they're just open. But then you see the humans, they open businesses and even get moderate businesses, and their bowling alleys shut down, this shut down, that shut down, all this shit shut down. Mom and pops buy, farmers buy, but then all these farms. How's McDonald's still getting taters? How's Wendy's still getting beef? So y'all are being mind fucked, dude. So then, if he shut off food stamps, which is about $40 billion for a month, and then has the money to give Argentina $40 billion, it's called money laundering. But see, in my mind, the reason why my mind works the way it does is because we're gonna talk about the house on the sand in the goddamn it, I'm a cultured Christian, and we're gonna talk about the house that's on the mountain. You see. When certain things are explored, why they're telling y'all not to mess with certain things in a book and go in gardens and touch certain things, is because if the Lord comes and rains hot fire in your house, and there's an explosion, and you're on the sand, there's going to be a bunch of pretty glass afterwards. They're going to make stained glass out of your ass. But if you're on a foundation, all that shit was tore apart, now you still have that foundation. So yeah, y'all seen me on camera for about a year. I was going through it. I actually on my other videos, I uploaded a video when I had got banned for 3 days. But before I had got banned for 3 days, what happened was there was that video talking about I think it was either Trump and the Gestapo talking about Kanye, or it was the one where I posted "Let My People Go," and they banned me for 3 days for one of those videos. What happened was. That's when I went to the hospital right after because too much crazy shit was happening. I was seeing rabbis talk about bomb and kill the gays and the Arabs. I was seeing Christians talk about kill each other and beheadings on the rapture and shit. So then I made a video called Let My People Go, only stating what was stating in that written book, and they banned me for 3 days. Or I think it was the Kanye, the Gestapo video and the Mike Trump. And all I did was say in an amount of time, Kanye and Trump are going to do some Nazi shit. So then when I went to the hospital and tried to upload a video of me in the hospital bed talking about what the fuck's going on, it wouldn't upload. They was talking about you are banned for 3 days and da da da. So I was like, okay. The reason why I brought that up is because after some time had went by, after some chemical equations had went by and some circlings around the sun, something had started to happen. I started to turn into an Ebenezer Scrooge in terms of playing with anybody's fucking bullshit. Because the first time I had went to a hospital across town, it was because when I wanted to literally be involuntary within their system. I told them I want to be involuntary, and I signed all the paperwork, and I wanted to see something. When I went in there and talked to the doctor or whatever, this is my personal experience, so I can say his name. When I talked to Patel, this dude had diagnosed me with depression. This is why that's funny. I was in this place for 4 days. Once you're in, you have to have the doctor talk to you to get out. That's why I don't like involuntaries and dealing with certain institutions, because you're essentially a prisoner, and it's a whole thing. And I'm going to explain what happened when I had actually got arrested. So then they had let me go or whatever. I still had my job. My job had emailed me and asked me if I wanted, because I work in a psych facility. They emailed me and asked me if I wanted to start taking some of their medications. I was like, what in the actual fuck? And then the state of Illinois sent me an email and a letter and said if I still have my FOID card on me, I will catch a felony. Not a gun. They said if I'm walking around with the card. So I put it up. And I was like, okay, this is some funny shit. This is why this is super fucking funny. When I went in there, I told them that I work in a psych facility. I told them that I deal with a bunch of people that are dealing with certain mental illnesses, a lot of mental illnesses, and I see outbreaks every day physically of behaviors. And I told them about the current political spectrum and how it's so sad that so many people are starving, but I'm seeing Bill Gates and his $600 million yacht, or billion, however much it costs, and these other elites just going to countries, having infrastructure, and then when they're kicked out, or when they leave, most of the time when they leave it like shitholes, leaving just a nasty stain on humanity. They let me go 4 days later and told me I had depression. Well, the thing is, they only see you for about 30 minutes a day. You're in this lockdown place on all these hard beds and all this hard furniture, and there's a TV and some hard plastic. And they're giving you this basic food. Oh, and it costs money. It costs a lot of money. So basically what I'm telling y'all is, the irony is it costs all this money and all you're doing is sitting in a place and you're talking to a psychologist for like, and no, you're talking to the nurse's what do they call it? A nurse practitioner. The nurse practitioner gives the notes to the psychologist. I can't make this up. And that'll cost you thousands, a lot of fucking money. So then later, some time goes by and I start to get Scrooge about this shit. I'm like, I'm sick of these. I start to get mean. I'm like, I'm sick of these, not like at work and every day. I'm talking like deep within. I'm sick of the fucking Christians. I'm sick of the fake race, blah, 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 blah. I'm sick of all the oppression, me versus them, blah, blah, fucking blah. Because there's billions of humans and they're letting these 10 fucking people shit on their fucking face. So then some time goes by. And then there's a point in time where everything's starting to get nutty to me. But at the same time, I still have that foundation. I still got that. And I tell y'all over and over what my foundation is. It is the spirit within and honestly, the 10 Commandments. When I say it's the 10 Commandments, I'm not saying, oh, it's this magical. When I was growing up, I used to get whoopings to the 10 Commandments. I used to be in church all the time. And the foundation was the whole, who is God? I am. We knew about Jesus. He was the Son of God, blah, blah, blah. All this other lore and stuff. But my foundation was that mountain. And I knew that somewhere there was something guiding me, because even throughout my life, I do stupid stuff and I wasn't being punished the way that people set up magical spirit. No, I was getting that fuck around to find out. I was having consequences happen because of my actions throughout life. And so the magic was beside me. I was starting to get pissed the fuck off. So then eventually I had went back to the hospital because this time, the first time it was like, the second time it was because humans were starting to sound like robots to me. I had reached a level of enlightenment or singularity within where I compacted within to where I was having trouble listening to any human talk. I don't care which of them, it could be a scientist. Somehow he would say something Christian. It could be a Christian. Somehow they would say something ridiculous or nutty. And it started to blow my mind. I was getting to the point where I couldn't take it no more. So then I went to the hospital. And even if people were unaware about it, they were doing it. They were like the most atheistic people. They would just start to go into some type of spiritual. It was like, okay, enough. And so I went to the hospital the second time. And this time they was like, are you sure? Are you sure? We're going to have to sign you. And I did. And I sat there. So then they had somebody from a foundation called Heritage come talk to me. Now, keep in mind, I just went there because, honestly, I thought this was the best thing that I could do. I was tired of the religious and the blah, blah, blah. I'm thinking if I could get around doctors and nurses and scientists and physiologists and medical science, I was like, oh, after all these times of delusion and grandeur, I'm about to be around my people for a second and they're going to help talk me down. Holy fucking shit. The doctors and nurses didn't know what to do because we're not psychologists, so you don't have a physical problem. Totally unprepared for anything. So then when the people from a foundation came in, religious, the Heritage Foundation, right? The most delusions of delusional grandeur teachings. But God forbid I say anything about Christianity because it burns them on the inside. I was like, I'm sick of the spirituality, religiosity, blah, 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 blah. I was like, I'm done with it. I'm done with people's bullshit. I just need to talk to somebody. I've had a lot of religious shit going on in my life. And if these motherfuckers didn't try to involuntary me to another city, I have had family members tell me they have told these people they try to commit suicide. I've had family members tell me all type of crazy shit, and all they do is send them away with some medication. I told them I'm sick of religion and Christianity and was breaking down with facts what's happening in real time, and they tried to involuntary me to a psych home. I was like, oh my God. So then I told them, no, you have to have a court order to involuntary me in the state. I have not done nothing psycho. I haven't harmed myself. I haven't harmed nobody else. And these people called security and had them stand in front of the door and said, you're going to be leaving to outside of my will to a whole other city. I was like, oh, kidnapping, right? So I called the nurse over and I said, release this needle from my arm. This is involuntary seclusion. You guys are keeping me away from the world right now, and you're holding me against my will. Man, that nurse looked at me like, you know how when you think somebody crazy, and then they say something medical, and then you be like, what the fuck? Man, she knows about the law and lawsuits. That's all they teach you. And when they teach you medical, they teach you just enough to not get sued. This is what I'm going to say with confidence on this camera. Because even once you learn all this fancy stuff in school, you then get reprogrammed by the facility or hospital or whatever you work for. And you're going to be damn near talking to lawyers for a long time. And their legal teams. You can know how to save people's lives, and if you do it, you'll get sued. I'm not lying what I'm saying on this camera right now. So then what happened was security got a little lax after. I ain't gonna lie, I got irate. And they talk about de-escalating police and all these other, no. When somebody's going through some stuff, it's not wise to tempt them or talk crazy to them. Because after everything I've learned in healthcare, especially in psych care, I know what you can and can't do. 10 years of psych care, and this lady coming in here talking to me like I'm an idiot. Don't know who I am, right? Pre-med, ready to become a nurse. So then I was taught you cannot torment people. You can't seclude people based on your beliefs or blah, 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 unless they're a harm to other people. I was taught that you cannot taunt people or tell them what they are forced to do. And you have to try to redirect. Lady telling me, oh, it gets deeper. Outside the hospital, she visited me in the secluded cell that they put me in. And I was released quickly, and then charges dropped. So let me continue forward. So then this lady, after taunting me, had security stand there, right? So I flipped the tray. I'm like, fuck this, flipped the tray, and sat on the bed and was fucking pissed. Started putting my clothes on and said, give me my property. So the security got lax. They went and started talking to the doctor at the nursing station. All on camera. Any facility or hospital that tells you they don't have cameras are lying through their fucking teeth. And if they don't, they will be sued. I promise you they will. So then, while they're at the nursing station, I put on my shoes and I go to walk out at first, but then I go to, I start to run out. Man, these motherfuckers, and it wasn't fast or anything. I was basically fast walking out. I heard a lady say, stop him. I'm like, for what? Man, these people tackled me from behind and body slammed the fuck out of me on the ground. So it's like this, I'm walking. Next thing you know, arms behind my back, boom, to the fucking floor, right? I'm not resisting because I watch enough cops and everything else to know those are charges. So I just let them, when they want you, fight it in court. I'm telling you people, the more you fight them, the more charges you're going to get. And then if you are innocent, you're still going to go to jail if these people hurt themselves, right? So the security guards pick me up, lay me on the bed. The whole nursing team, now I'm not resisting, I'm not fighting these people. It's all on camera. I'm laying on the bed, handcuffed. They insert 2 shots in both legs, right? The whole staff do. Now, if somebody's suffering from COPD or other certain things, you don't sedate them. And they had no idea that I was suffering from what I was suffering from in my lungs. Whole bunch of lawsuits involved right now, but I'm just explaining. I have no power or anything. Not only that, I'd have to have money to even initiate any of this. I had messaged Black Lives Matter, every page on Facebook, and got a hold of the institution. I had got a hold of every lawyer out here. But you know the irony of that? Most of them were contracted through the hospital, which is one of the biggest corporations in the city of Decatur, I've been in psych here for years. I know all these things. They trained me to not get sued. I know what you can and can't do. So then, right, I reach out to all these institutions, nothing. So what initially happens, I'm in a jail cell, right? I think this booking or something like that. Then they put me in a turtle suit because these people told them I'm suicidal, right? So then when it's all said and done with and I wake up in the cell, then they take me downstairs to this other place. I'm in a turtle suit and it's freezing cold, and the water in the sink and the water in the shower is cold. It's freezing cold, all right? So they bring me food every however many hours. And the crazy thing is, I don't know if you guys ever been secluded or if you've ever had to wait to eat. I don't know what they was bringing me, but because the first time I got locked up for a situation with guns years ago, which got dropped again because they accused me of having guns, pulled guns out of me and all kind of crazy shit. I submitted and surrendered and I was let go. But this time, I was tearing that shit up, right? What I could. It was like beans and rice and cornbread and other random, anything that was legible that I knew I ate. So then, they give you a little drink or whatever. And it was freezing cold most of the time. You couldn't have nothing down there. So the lady would come in once a day. It was like Sunday she came in, I think, and then Monday and then Tuesday, but then Tuesday I was let out. This lady taunted me, mocked me. If you don't act right, you'll never get out of here. If you don't do what I say and you don't lose the attitude, you'll be down here for as long as I want you to be down here. A person who's supposed to be assessing somebody who they thought was going through mental illness. So now if I was going through that shit, now I'm just losing my fucking mind. Right? So then a couple days later, I finally got in touch with my mom and my girl. And what happened was my mom gave most of it, but then there was a little more that was needed, so that my girl added that to it. And my dad brought it to my girl at the police station, and they bonded me out. This shit was torment and horror. When I took showers, they said it was supposed to get warm after like 20 minutes. It would for like 10 seconds. And then you had to got out. There was no towels or nothing. You had to shake. That's called hypothermia. They don't give a fuck because according to them, I could hang myself, right? So this is just mad. So I finally got out. When I figured out what was going on, I had a court date and all that, right? These motherfuckers was giving me a felony for assaulting. It was a felony battery against the hospital staff, but it was security. They said I turned around and socked a dude in the face. So I fought that shit to the end. Oh, like the first court date went by, which was, it wasn't a court date. It was, I guess, where you got to come in and to an office and talk to this lady offered me a misdemeanor. She said you could do 2 weeks in jail. And I work in healthcare, so I'd never be able to work healthcare again, hospitality, anything that I'm trained to do. I looked at this lady, I was like, no, thank you. My parents did that when I was younger, and they fought a bunch of stuff, and now my mom could become a nurse still and all sorts of stuff. She fought and took it. The judge, this is the funny part. After that incident happened with my parents, because they came to my house and arrested my parents for something and body slammed both of them on concrete. The judge sent us to camp for a year, paid for some kind of camp for my little brothers and sisters to go to for a year. What the fuck? So the public defender, so then I came and saw her again. She offered me another. She's like, this time it'll be a week, but it's still a misdemeanor. I was like, no, thank you. I was like, hospitals have camera. Called the hospital. They was like, get a lawyer. Click, after putting me on hold for a long time. Right? So I went and talked to a lawyer. He was like, well, the beginning of it all, there's going to be at least $3,000 for me to go and litigate in court. Then another $3,600 for me to go get the evidence. And I'm going to have to, so I was going to need at least $7,000, $8,000. The funny thing is, I actually hadn't lost my job yet. I was still working at my job. They were still sending me emails to take their medications. Nurse practitioners from like Aetna was getting a hold of me and stuff. I told a practitioner what happened. She started crying on camera, and she set it up to where they want to talk to me once a year. I was like, okay, whatever. Because at that point, I found they were just listening to me. The people at Aetna, they weren't like trying to assess. They were just listening. They weren't there to assess. To diagnose me or nothing. They just listened to what I was saying, and that was therapeutic. When I saw her crying, I felt human again. I was like, not all of these people are crazy, and some of them do care. Because it got to a point, even when my parents would say certain things, it's like this is not what they were saying, but it was the equivalent of pick yourself up by the bootstraps. Son, you know the consequences. Well, why need God? You know how that shit goes. So, I talked to the practitioner or whatever once I got out, and eventually after going to court for all these months, this lady gets a hold of me and says, oh, they dropped the charges. I mean, so for like 3-4 months, I'm thinking I'm about to catch a felony because I'm watching all these institutions, people saying, I didn't do it. In my mind, I was losing it, but I wasn't going to quit. I wasn't going to take no fucking misdemeanor. My job ended up firing me because the funny part is I told you all where I worked at first. And the reason I got fired is because of a testimony of one of the people accusing me of something. Now, I've been accused of many different things, beating their faces in and making them bloody. They go do the investigation and nothing's wrong. It's just, you work in these places and I was accused of cursing one of them out and doing something and like manhandling them. So I went to the place and was like, because it happened in increments. They tried to accuse me the first time. I said, I will not be accused, and I'm not being accused of anything I didn't do. And surprisingly, a higher up grabbed the phone and said, we'll just write you up. Don't worry about it. Then like 3 weeks later, they tried it again, but the administrator did, and I told her, I'm done. I'm done with the bullshit. I didn't manhandle nobody. You guys got cameras. I'm not. So then, that's when I didn't have my job for a while. I was asking for donations through Cash App and stuff. The irony is a bunch of people asked me for my Cash App before this happened, and I kept telling them on camera, no, I don't believe in that, and I'm a working man, and blah, blah, blah. And then I lost my job, and that's when I got humbled again. It's like, don't disrespect people asking for help. Don't disrespect institutions getting donations and shit, blah, blah, blah. Even though a lot of these places are money laundering. I talked about this in my videos with the church systems and stuff and not paying taxes. A lot of them do receive good and help a lot of hungry, innocent people. Because this happened, when I was younger, we had a candy shop. And I understand, hygiene and wanting to have licensing and all of this stuff. So the candy shop got shut down. We went to Chicago, got stuff for the low, like at factories where the businesses buy the stuff, and then we were selling it. Make a little income because we lived in the projects in, Illinois, Bloomington. And so now it makes sense. I see countless videos of people getting arrested and stopped for feeding the homeless and stuff. Big famous pages, paying fines. And people that houses the homeless getting in trouble because they don't got licensing. And it fucking makes me so angry because they got institutions to arrest these people and put them in jail, but to not create the institution for the licenses to help them and shit, man. It makes me so twisted, man. It makes me want to curse shit. It makes me want to. But that's part of my foundation. I know I don't want to harm nobody, and I never will, and I follow a set amount of rules. So it's just something I call eating the snake. Sometimes I take so much damage internally that I that shit. And that's why I don't forsake my darkness, because I know that there are times when I to be that egotistical, chauvinistic man on the inside to empower myself from even another imagination. But it's something that I can do without movement. All that you just saw, I'm giving you a physical representation of what my soul does. The strong man when darkness comes my way. So you might look at that and be like, what does that mean? Harm somebody. Fuck out my face. Do this or that. Revenge. It's not going to get me nowhere. And I'm going to go to jail. Or even if I don't go to jail, you're going to, after you tell me to do it, it's going to be, oh, remember that thing you did? Remember that thing you did? Remember that thing you did? No, get the fuck out my face. Oh, look at that. Look at this or look at that. Ooh, sex. I rebuke these Satans. Gross. The fuck. Because there are times that needs to be done. And then it's just like, there are times when something so heinous comes to my mind that the spirit, engulfed with flames, engulfs that shit, turns it into ashes, carbon dioxide, water, and edification and teachings to what a path that will be worthy of following. Based on my perception, so what is worthiness? Something that maybe you don't want to do to cause harm to other people. And that's how I flow. So when they told me I turned around and punched the security guard, I work healthcare. I basically was being treated like security as a CNA. So then as a person who has been hit, kicked, and all kind of things, why would I then turn around to a righteous man being told to grab me and punch him in his fucking face? So it was all dropped. It was let go. But if you still type my name into Google, it'll still show a huge mugshot of me in a turtle suit like I'm some type of fucking thug or criminal. Why is that? Why create that infrastructure? Why wouldn't that be taken down with an apology? It's all an image. And I tell you all the time, you might get mugged by a black dude. You might get mugged by a white dude. I'm not black and they're not white. There's some type of peach, reddish color because of the hemoglobin in the blood. I am a brown color. I am a caramel color, beige color. These words we create. Actually, I had something interesting to say. If I still had all my fur like most chimpanzees and apes, I would be black. Y'all don't look at cats and go, oh, they're pink. You look at them and say what color they are based on their fur. So I guess kind of, But is that black or deep brown? Could we even see black? Do we have the capability of seeing black, or are we just seeing a dark mixture of colors? What is black? So, I don't know, man. I don't even remember what I was talking about. Just how a lot of this shit is twisted, and I give my examples to tell you all, sometimes the people you are looking for help from need help themselves or don't know what the fuck they're talking about themselves. And that's why I like YouTube and an interconnected internets, because to me, it's a great way, just like all these crazy people are clumping together like blood clots. It's a great way for the righteous to flow in a good direction when found. And that's why I'm setting up all these blood vessels and capillaries as tubes so that the blood can flow like ones and zeros, ones with hemoglobin. Oh, and zeros without. I had an interesting idea. Matter. How it's, think about something real quick, food for thought. Okay, we know protons are positively charged, but when we experience novas and black holes and different things like that, a lot of things get compressed outside of what they would normally be. Now, let's say you have 1 and 0 for binary, but what about trinary? -1, 0, 1. What if you had an institution where you have antimatter, like they said, those things that don't exist in nature, and then would suction things that do to fill, like oxygen. Imagine when you have oxygen, it goes from high to low. So let's treat a proton the same way, because enough protons is an oxygen. And let's say you have a proton, right? And you have a proton and a neutron that normally wouldn't interact in matter, or maybe because one has no charge and one does. But what if those things were compacted around a bunch of antimatter? Maybe even too many electrons, right? Too many trying to compress to it at once. So then what you have is those things compacted together, like the essence of a black hole at a macro scale. And so what could I say? How does this make sense? Let's say you have 0. This has no charge. Well, let's say you have 1. It has a charge. Well, let's say you went even further and went to -1, a negative charge. A charge that was opposite to the positive, like when you see poles. And so in nature, you would have a neutral, you would have a positive charge, and then you would have a negative charge, trinary. Now, what if a bunch of positive charge ellipted with this neutral charge and was surrounded by negative charge, electromagnetic fields? And then while entangled in that field, or I'm sorry, let me say this in the direction that I wanted to say it. Let's say you have protons and neutrons that are stuck together. Why would they be stuck together in nature if they're not supposed to be stuck together? What if they were surrounding antimatter? Or what if there was an electric charge within those particles that was negative? So then you have positive on top of negative being forced into it. Well, like a hydrogen bond when dealing with water molecules, what if that positive charge now created a field around it to where another negative charge will be attached to it until it's balanced? I.e., I'll give you an example. What if you have a proton around a negative charge? And then that negative charge, because it is between the proton positive and negative negative, you would automatically have a neutral in between, almost like a circuit breaker. So you have a neutral in between. Now, what I'm saying is paper. I'm giving you paper. Now let's theorize in the real world. So now, because of that electric whatever that was sucked out of existence, antimatter, y'all call it. Now, what if you have this rectangle, this box, and in this box, there is ones everywhere. It's compacted with ones. But because of something that happened up here, those ones became magnetized and started to connect up here. Then you would have a bunch of negative ones everywhere, right? The field that isn't the ones. Now, because of that negativity, you would have an electric, magnetic. So then you would have the compaction up here, then the compaction out here. So essentially, there's probably antimatter on the inside of protons and neutrons, which then, once it's compacted enough, and then once it's at its state, if there's any more charge on the outside, then it is filled by further negatively charged particles. Now, see, this is where it gets confusing and why I'm having trouble explaining this in nature. You guys will ask, how can there be a positive and negative charge? Okay. Think of it like this. How can there be a negative in space-time from my perspective? Okay. Let's say you have, instead of going negative now, let's go 1 and 2 instead of binary and trinary. Let's say you have one item that's a particular charge, and then you have a second item that's a higher charge. I'm going to explain in nature what might happen. The bigger item with charge is going to have a positive charge in the middle, outside of what I'm theorizing. That positive charge in the middle is going to attract the negative charge or the field around the positive charge of the second item. And so let's say planet Earth. Let's say planet Earth has a charge attracting things to it because of its magnetic properties. And then I have a charge. Because of the charge that's created from the Earth, it then takes whatever is my anti-charge and pulls it towards it, because two positives wouldn't pull towards each other unless there was nuclear force involved. And so look at when you go to other planets and you can jump real high, woo-hoo, or there's no gravity or certain, like the moon. There's less gravity on the moon. You can just jump and float away. Because you're not attracted to the moon, because the moon does not have that iron in the middle of it creating a field the way it does on the moon. It does have a magnetic field, just not the same one as Earth's. And so I believe that is what gravity is, the fields, just like how atoms stick together. They call it there's just different types of forces. Honestly, a black hole, I don't think is what we perceive it to be. First of all, the secretion disk doesn't go 100% around it. It's just like the rings around planets. but what you're seeing is charged dust and particles. And so I believe what's happening is the magnetic field of these items, like how there's poles and it's hottest at the equator. I believe what's happening is centralizing that energy because of the flow of it. And then what's happening is once it's all around it like that, it flows together like water going down a drain. Simple as that. We can't see the light coming from it because light is bent into the disk. You see how the light goes around it on the sides, but then when it gets around the other side, it goes up and down. That's not what's happening. What's happening is you're just seeing a disk, but the light on the outside magnifies to the top of it until it goes to where it needs to go. You see how when it goes around it, it just goes stuck to the top of it. Then when light goes around again, the light can escape and come towards us. So I'll give you an example. That's why essentially when you see light going away from you, it looks slower because what's happening is you're seeing the first of all, there's a beam of light going a certain way. You're seeing the illumination come from it. That's a secondary reaction. But when you see light coming towards you, that's the initial photon or beam of light, and the things that come from the outside of it are the secondary beams that come from it, if that makes sense, because it illuminates. And so, or illuminates. And so, like when you see the sun, well, you're not supposed to look at the sun, but I'm saying the light that gets here from the sun, it takes 8 minutes. A lot of times scientists are using bad metaphors. So they'll say, if you were to go to the nearest star and come back, you would have only aged 4 years and other people 9 years. Okay, I don't know if they're talking about the sun or not, because if they're talking about the sun, that doesn't make sense because it takes light 8 minutes to get here. What they are saying is time appears to be moving slower because light moves so fast. But first of all, if you moved at the speed of light, you would be dead. Second of all, if you were able to insulate a room inside of a bigger structure, like a big, huge wire that was human size, and the insulated room could travel without squashing everything on the inside of it or feeling any pressure or anything, then the only thing that will happen is you would arrive somewhere faster. The reason time appears to be moving slower is because it's moving so fast. And so if you look at my hand right now, you can clearly see what's happening. But if I do this, my hand didn't just age 10 fucking years. What happened was it was moving at something so fast that everything else around it seems slower. And so I gave that example a while back of how if a being was like so big and massive that when it appeared and looked at it may be able to move at distances faster than us. But with us being macro, we're moving faster in nature because they're more massive and it takes more energy to move. That's why they say items can't move at the speed of light, because if it moves at the speed of light, the further to the speed of light it gets, it would take more energy until you would need infinite energy to receive the speed of light continually, if that makes sense. Because like this right here, I can only move that so fast because it's so massive. It's a bunch of stuff to move, and there's wind resistance and stuff. But if I was just pure energy, neutrinos, I believe, don't interact with things. They can just go right through us because they're not affected by the charges around shit. I don't know all things. And so I don't understand the nature of a proton and a neutron being stuck together or how a neutron exists, other than to say if there's a proton that exists, there has to be a neutron or a neutrino. But if there's a proton with an electron, maybe the electrino or the neutrino is there in theory or nature and is the mass of space that keeps them from colliding or something. I don't know. Because essentially, when you look at a proton, the only thing that you're looking at is, according to them, are 3 different charges at subatomic particle levels. And those 3 different charges has 2 positives and 1 negative. Those 2 positives and 1 negative create an upcharge. That upcharge is canceled out by the electron, which is another subatomic particle. So it's all basically just a group of particles that are connected through charge. Why they are connected through charge, I do not know. Because this isn't a Y thing, it's a mechanical thing, which then leads to the Y. So essentially, once we get further with data and knowledge, we can understand why all these charges exist outside of when we look at a computer. That's exactly how a computer works. It receives a charge that then drags information from a registry to a computer screen. Just like how photons carry data or information that leads to eyesight. It's the same literal thing. And so, from this distance from my hand to my face could be 18 to the negative 18 to 10 to the negative 10th power 10 to the negative 10th power. But the distance between the sun and me is such a higher, greater distance that it becomes bigger. Since it is a bigger number, it would be like 10 to the negative first power or something like that. You know, see what I'm saying? How that works with distances. And so, like I said, in a black hole, it would appear that a bunch of matter is squeezed tight in a microchip. And then the energy around that black hole is the field. Just like, imagine how I believe it to be. A black hole is either one of two things. You're either seeing the surface of a bunch of matter, which I don't believe is what is happening, because it feels like a field in itself or energized something, or you're seeing what like the hydrogen sphere of the sun, because with the sun, that's all plasma and stuff. And though the inside may be doing a bunch of stuff at a nuclear level, you're still seeing plasma trapped because it's convecting, or it's circling instead of radiating. I believe that's called convecting. And so I don't believe a black hole is doing that. I believe what you're seeing is the actual huge field, like the hydrogen sphere or the Earth's magnetic field. And what's actually happening with the matter on the inside is super compressed and energized, which creates that big field. And so then the field is probably dealing with so much magnetic energy that it topples to like the equator, and then it spins around with the reaction. That's just my guess. I don't know. I can constantly have new guesses every day with the more information that I receive. And so to me personally, I give validity to what my dad said. This might be a computer system. But he said, son, do you think this is real? And I said, if I am, therefore I am. I don't have to say if I think, because if I consciously do things, therefore I am. And so if I'm aware, I am. That's why I said computing and robotics after a certain point they're living. And how you treat them is how you would probably treat, I don't want to say that, but yeah, how you would probably treat another human being if you wouldn't get caught or in trouble. And so I'll see y'all later. I've done enough.